Welcome to Networking Arizona with host Carol Blonder. You'll hear interviews with businesses located throughout the valley. Networking, it makes a difference.
If I traded it all.
So welcome to the show, everyone. It's the weekend. You got to be careful out there because not only was it St. Patrick's Day yesterday, so everybody's partying, having fun, so be very careful out there. As you all know, I made it possible for everybody to talk about themselves on the radio. So if you want to get yourself heard, just give us a call here at 602-277-5369. They're going to get you connected with me so that you can get yourself heard on Networking Arizona. I'm going to go right in with my first guest who has been on the show before. I have Barry Lewin, and he is a certified specialist in injury and wrongful death. You're an attorney,
yes.
And what does that mean that you're a certified specialist in that?
It means that the committee from the state bar that does these things has certified that I've passed the test and that people think reasonably well of me so that I
Right, but it means that you
doing.
know what you're doing.
It means I know what I'm doing. That's exactly
How
right.
long have you been doing it, Barry?
35, 36 years.
So over 35 years. You're located where?
The office is at 202 West Earl, which is just off of Central and Earl, near Park Central.
Right down here in Phoenix.
Right.
And you are going to be talking today about some different things. It's interesting cases, which is kind of cool. Everybody likes to hear them. But let's talk real quickly. You know, it is a fun weekend for people because, you know, we know that they're extending the St. Patrick's Day fun.
Right.
You know, and anything can happen. You can get into an accident anytime, but especially now. And Arizona has crazy drivers. I don't know what it is, but there's a lot of craziness that goes on here.
Well, certainly spring training brings in a lot of people that are having a good time and may not always be paying attention to everything around them.
Right. Come up to the mic.
Especially on this holiday.
Right. Now, let's talk about some of the different cases. Like today you said there's just certain things. There's not only that, but there's also something else that you do that's very, very important. And this is something people listen up, please, because a lot of our loved ones get hurt when they're in a nursing home. We don't really know what happens. When I say hurt, I don't mean slip and fall, right?
Yes.
That can happen, too.
It can, and certainly that's something they have to look out for because as you get older, the consequences of falling down get much greater. And
right.
more
That's where the
serious.
PI department goes in on your side, right?
To some extent, yeah.
Right. But also other things in when someone is in a nursing home. And what are those things?
Well, in a nursing home, you've got issues in addition to the normal. They have to keep the place safe for the people that are there. There's also things like neglect and abuse that go on sometimes, and there are special rules that apply to those kinds of claims. For example, if you do fall down and hurt yourself, the expectation is that someone's going to notice, somebody's going to do what they need to get you the care you need to get back up. Because if you're older and you break your hip, that's one of the more serious things that you can do. Well, yeah, unfortunately, it's not a good thing, and your prognosis is a lot worse afterwards. And if you sit there for an hour or two before they find you, your prognosis gets that much worse.
Right. But the last time you were on, you talked a little bit about bed sores.
Right.
And how do they know? I mean, how do you feel comfortable about coming into mom and dad and going, get undressed, I need to see your body?
Well, I don't feel comfortable doing that, and I don't suppose anybody else would either. But,
right, but you have to do something.
Well, you know, bed sores are a completely preventable thing, and they are totally, they're completely avoidable if you take care of the people that are in your nursing home.
But a lot of times they don't, and there's good places and bad places. It can happen to anybody. We want everybody to have information on this. We're going to open up the lines here for everybody to get 5 things that you need to know, whether it's wrongful death, whether it's personal injury, whether it's, you get into a car accident, something bad happens to you, and nursing neglect. So our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. I'm going to open up the lines to the audience. If you have an issue and you want to call in and ask a question, you can. Barry's here live to talk to you. And it's a little bit of free advice right here on Networking Arizona. But also you can just call in for the information. We want to get this in people's hands because all too many people get, they have somebody that it's too late. Sometimes it's too late or they don't know what to do.
Well, that's right. And, they don't give you the Miranda warnings. You have the right to remain silent and that sort of thing that you do when you get arrested. But there are a lot of people who you talk to who aren't there to help you. They're helping the place that has the problem.
Right.
And they're very good at what they do.
So you've been doing this for over 35 years. Your phone number is 602-325-1141. It's B. Lewin. This is your what is your website? This is not it. What's your website?
It's www.barrylewinlaw.com.
Perfect. So it's Barry, Barry, Lewin, Lewin, law.com. And we're going to open up the lines of the audience here for everybody to get this. And I'm going to let you call throughout the rest of the show for it, too. 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Okay, let's talk about this because it's serious. Over-medicated. Let's talk about some of these interesting cases that you've had. Over-medication. You can sue for that.
Well, you can. And in fact, you
should.
If something's done wrong, you should. That's right. Because a lot of medications have toxic levels. They need to be monitored. And in the case that we were going to talk about, the patient was given too much of a medicine that was an antibiotic and ended up with a major hearing loss as a result because they didn't monitor her blood levels of the medication, and she lost most of her hearing as a result of it. And she was relatively young at the time.
Right.
So it was a lifelong problem of being mostly deaf.
Wow. So, and interesting enough, a lot of people don't realize this, and you just happened to bring this up, and you didn't know this. My mother, who was in the hospital, they gave her antibiotics, and they did not know that she was allergic to the one, and she ended up with seizures.
Right.
And so these things can happen. Now, she came out of them, but I don't know what affected her. She died very soon after that, so who knows?
Yeah, and especially when you're in a hospital and you're under nurses' care and doctors' care, and there's a pharmacy there, and they have all the warnings and bells and whistles that are supposed to go off if you get too much.
Right.
You would expect that not to happen.
Right. And it's very scary if you are with your loved one and you see something like this happen. What happens if you're somewhere you're not taking care, you're not there with them, and they neglect them?
Well, right. It's very hard to monitor your loved one 24 hours a day when they're in the hospital. And even if you are there, most of us don't know enough to be sophisticated enough to know when there's a problem in the hospital in the first place.
Right.
I mean, you sort of count on the doctors and the nurses and the hospital pharmacy to know what is going on.
Right. But something? Some of us have a feeling, though. I can tell you that. I know that firsthand. I mean, my mother's different than some of them. When I was in the hospital one time, the drip wasn't dripping.
Yeah.
And she was like, it's not dripping, But not everybody does that because they feel like the hospital should know or they should all know, right? So they don't say anything.
Well,
meantime, I could have died.
There's another problem with that, too, and that's that you don't want to be the complaining patient or the complaining patient's family from hell either.
Right, no.
Because once you get to that point,
right,
you aren't going to get the care you need.
Right.
They're not going to go out of their way for you. They're going to think, we can't keep anybody happy in this situation, and they're going to tend to do what they need to, but they're not going to go out of their way and do the extra things that make it easier for you to be in the hospital.
Right. So he's giving everyone the 5 things you need to know. It's whether it's wrongful death, whether it's personal injury, or nursing neglect. These are things that everyone needs to know. The phone number to call here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. You could check him out on his website. It is barrylewinlaw.com, and it's Barry, lewinlaw.com. You can also call him direct. The phone number is 602-325-1141. Do you give out free consultations? You got it.
Well, yeah, we do.
You have to. You know why? You have to hear about what your case is. You don't know if you have a case unless he talks to you. We're going to go to a break. When we come back, we're going to talk further about some of these things. Our lines are open here. Give us a call here for the information at 602-277-5369. Check him out at barrylewinlaw.com.
If I traded it all if I gave it.
So we're back.
all the way.
And we're talking with Barry Lewin. He is a certified specialist in injury and wrongful death. And also, you've been doing this for over 35 years. Your offices are located in Phoenix, but you can help anyone from anywhere. You do free consultations. You have to find out what's your case about, you know. Now, we talked a little bit about the one, you know, with your nursing home neglect. We're talking a little bit about another interesting case that you had. We have our lines open here for everybody to get the 5 things that you need to know in different things. So whether it's wrongful death, whether it's PI, or whether it's nursing neglect, or whatever, in any kind of neglect, he can help you. Our number here is 602-277-5369. Toll free, it's 1-866-536-1100. Okay, so you said that you wanted to talk about some of these cases, and one of them was a patient that was self-administering narcotic pump. What the heck?
Well, you know, in a lot of hospitals, the patient has a device that when they're in pain, they can give themselves morphine or narcotics of whatever kind
I remember now.
the physician orders. And they calculate a dose, and you can't give yourself theoretically too much because the pharmacy calculates it, and it locks itself up so that you can't keep giving yourself more morphine.
Oh, okay.
But what some people wouldn't think of is that people who are overweight actually can tolerate less medicine than people that are lighter. And it's counterintuitive. So this gentleman was given way too much for his weight because he was heavy, and they didn't monitor him, and he died in the hospital.
Wow. Interesting. That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's not just a fluke. That's them not doing their job, right?
Well, it was in that case, yeah.
Wow. And also, let's talk about these cases. When people call you, they talk to you, and they talk to you about their case. You have to really listen to everything that's going on because it takes a long time for them. These things don't happen overnight, right?
No, it takes a long time, and in fact, by the time you actually get the medical records that you need to have and you have them reviewed by a doctor who's going to give you an opinion about what happened, it can be months.
Right.
I mean, that's what's hard about medical malpractice cases is that what I think or what you think doesn't matter, no matter how it seems like it's a terrible result, unless a doctor says it's a terrible result and something else needed to be done, you have no case.
Wow. So you really have to just find out. You should check him out on his website. Is Barry, B-A-R-R-Y, LewinLaw.com. You can also call him. The phone number is 602-325-1141. Let's talk a little bit about, wrongful death. Okay? And it's interesting. I don't know why, but I know a lot of people. But I know somebody else who her boyfriend was driving late at night. It was very dark. And on the I-10, and there was a truck, a big, huge truck that had stopped. It had a flat tire, and instead of pulling over, they stopped right there in the middle. And sure enough, he rammed right into him, and guess what? And he died.
That's sad.
Yeah.
And it happens more frequently than you might think. People cross the road, too, at times when it's dark out, and you don't see them, and
they hit.
Frequently get hit and killed.
Right. So what are some kind of wrongful, like for a death of a loved one? Let's talk of one that you want to talk about. You've got one here that is normally they all get along, or they at least not. And what is that about?
Well, the one that refers to in particular is that, in a normal case, maybe you have a spouse who dies and they have some children, and the survivor, whether it's the husband or the wife and the children, they all love each other and get along with each other. The case that involved, there were 3 wives, none of whom had ever married the husband. They each had their own set of children with the now deceased husband. So all those people had claims, but none of them really liked each other very much. And each was perfectly happy to profit at the expense of the others.
Sure.
Because none of them really knew about each other until much about the time they all died.
Right. That's crazy. But in the girl's sense that I told you I knew about, she was just the girlfriend. She wasn't married.
Right.
Yet they were together and lived together for quite some time. Probably not enough for the, what do you call it, where somebody lives together long enough and they're like...
A common law marriage.
Common law. It wasn't enough for that.
No, she wouldn't have a claim.
She had no claim whatsoever.
That's right. And in this case, they did have claims. The kids all had claims. And because their mothers didn't like each other so well, we had to work out a way that they could cooperate with each other and not fight about whose claim was worth more. Otherwise, the claim would have been basically worthless.
Wow. Now, again, his website is barrylewinlaw.com. The number to call him is 602-325-1141. We do have our lines open here for everybody to get the 5 things that you need to know, whether it's wrongful death, whether it's PI, whether it's any kind of issue that you've had, maybe in someone in a nursing home or whatever it is, neglect, any type of neglect, he can help you. His number again is 602-325-1141, or you can call in for the information at 602-277-5369, and toll free it's 1-866-536-1100. Injuries at a resort. Wow. That's a good one.
Well, it is, because, the nicer the place you go to, the less likely you think you might be to get hurt. And if you do get hurt, you kind of expect them to give you the 5-star treatment once it happens, and that's not always the case, unfortunately.
Right. But anybody can fall anywhere.
Well, they can. And, one of the things that is sometimes hard to do is to prove that something is dangerous as opposed to you weren't paying attention. Mm-hmm. Like if you fall down a stair, a lot of people think, well, geez, it's just a stair. What's dangerous about a stair? And you must not have been paying attention, so they tend not to want to compensate you for what happens. Mm-hmm. And what we had to do was make it so that people could understand why the stair was dangerous the way it was at what was a very nice 5-star hotel.
How did you do that?
Well, we took a camera and we simulated what this lady would have seen as she was walking along, and you couldn't see the stair. I mean, it just was not apparent as you looked in the direction she was walking. You couldn't see any change in elevation. It looked straight.
So there go the reason why you need to call and talk to somebody like you who has gotten hurt like that, because you don't know. Most people would think when they look at that wow, that there's no case there.
It's just
but you
a
made
stair.
That case, right?
Yeah, it's just a stair. Or she was probably not paying attention, or maybe she'd had a few drinks or whatever.
But it didn't matter.
Well, and she hadn't.
And it didn't matter?
No, it didn't matter.
Wow. So you still won the case. You got to give him a call. He wins the case even if you're drinking. Huh?
She wasn't.
No, she
wasn't drinking, but, that's what I think a lot of people
would have thought.
Immediately think.
Sure, of course.
Why else would she fall down?
Right. But there's a lot of things that happen. I had another friend of mine one time was at a restaurant, and she somehow got her finger caught in a chair, and it literally got cut off. And so?
Yeah.
And I don't remember. And she was a court reporter and needed to use her hand, so she was somebody, I don't know what happened. I don't remember, so long ago.
Yeah. And you wouldn't expect that at a nice place.
And let's talk a little bit about this part of it, too, because everybody thinks that everybody's sue happy. And then, this is why, they think, you're just suing just to get money. What do you feel about that?
Well, I think that the people that think that don't see the same number of cases I do. I typically will look at several hundred for every one I take, which means that I don't take several hundred for every one that I do.
Right.
And I'm not filing frivolous cases.
Right.
It takes hundreds of hours and thousands of dollars to file a lawsuit on behalf of somebody.
And tell them how that works, like, because you put that out yourself.
Yeah, that's right. You do. You advance the money. It's an interest-free loan for an indeterminate amount of time that you only get paid back if you win.
Right.
So you're giving away the money. You're giving away your time. And if you're really filing frivolous cases, you're out of business in no time whatsoever.
And he's been doing this for over 35 years.
It just doesn't happen that way, and it's an interesting myth that has been perpetuated, and I'm not exactly sure how it's gotten
Well, because there are some people that are, or they come in and we all know that one out there that's going to sue everybody. You know,
well,
we know
in truth, I defended the same cases for 18 years, and I've done the people that are injured for the other 18. And honestly, when I was defending them, there were very few that I thought had no basis being filed in the first place. And I think if you ask the lawyers that defend them now, they'd tell you the same thing.
Well, you know what? I love having you on and having you talk a little bit about what it is that you do. It's very interesting. Everybody out there, if you have an issue in any way, shape, or form, it's a good idea. Give them a call. You'll find out. You do a free consultation, you'll find out whether or not you have a case or not. And his phone number, again, it is 602-325-1141. It's BarryLewinLaw.com. And call in here for the rest of the show for the 5 things that you need to do on these things we've been talking about.